Hello, everyone. For nearly 30 years, the world has dissected every second, every photograph, every interview, and every courtroom exchange involving O.J. Simpson, transforming his life and the lives of everyone connected to him into one of the most public, polarizing, and emotionally charged sagas in American history. But while millions argued loudly about guilt, innocence, and justice, almost no one stopped to consider the quiet casualties living behind the scenes. His children, especially his daughter, who grew up in the eye of a cultural hurricane she never asked to be part of, forced to watch the world tear her father apart while she was still trying to understand what it meant to be a child. And for decades, she stayed silent, not because she didn't have a story to tell, but because the spotlight had already stolen so much from her life that remaining invisible became her only form of survival. Yet, scattered across rare interviews, old family acquaintances, documented statements, and deeply emotional reflections she has shared across the years, she finally confirmed the truth the world had speculated about since the mid-90s. Not a secret about evidence or a dramatic new twist, but the truth about the emotional destruction, the trauma, the identity crisis, and the lifelong struggle that came from being the daughter of the most controversial man in America. And she revealed that the real pain was never just about the trial itself, but about everything that happened afterward. The relentless media circus that camped outside her home, the classmates who whispered behind her back, the teachers who looked at her with pity, the strangers who judged her before she ever said a word, the friends who slowly drifted away out of fear of becoming part of the story, and the suffocating pressure of carrying a last name that the world associated with tragedy, violence, and cultural division. And she confirmed that growing up under that weight forced her to build emotional walls so high and so thick that even the people closest to her couldn't reach her because she never felt safe enough to trust anyone. Not after seeing the way the world treated her family like entertainment, analyzing their grief, dissecting their every move, and turning their life into the most watched courtroom drama in modern history. And she confessed that the hardest part wasn't the verdict, the trial, or the media. It was the confusion of trying to understand who her father really was, when the world insisted on telling her who they believed him to be, leaving her torn between childhood memories of a loving father who made her laugh and the harsh, unforgiving narrative the world painted around him. And she finally addressed the long-standing rumors the public had whispered about for years, that the emotional distance between her and O.J. was real, that the pain and confusion created a quiet separation that wasn't about choosing sides or making accusations, but about survival, about trying to protect her mental health from a situation so big, so loud, so intense that it swallowed every part of her identity. And she admitted that she needed space. Space from the headlines, space from the cameras, space from the chaos, and yes, space even from her own father. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she couldn't carry the emotional weight of the world's opinions on her own shoulders any longer. And she confirmed something deeper than any sensational story the public ever searched for, that the family's silence wasn't a sign of hiding some explosive secret, but a desperate attempt to keep the few pieces of their humanity that hadn't already been taken from them, revealing that after the trial ended, their lives never returned to normal. Every public outing came with stares, every introduction came with judgment, every attempt to build friendships came with fear that someone would use her story, her pain, or her last name for validation, gossip, or attention. And she spoke about the years that followed, the emotional aftermath that the world never saw, where she wrestled with anxiety, identity confusion, and the impossible task of trying to build a future when so much of her past was overshadowed by one event she had no control over, and she admitted that she spent years trying to distance herself from the Simpson name, not out of disloyalty, but out of desperation to grow into her own identity, to live a life where she was seen as a person rather than a headline, a spectator in a scandal she never participated in. And she revealed that healing wasn't a straight line, but a long, painful, complicated journey with setbacks and difficult conversations that forced her to confront both the trauma she experienced and the memories she still cherished. And throughout these reflections, she confirmed that her truth, the truth she and her family carried quietly for decades, is that the greatest damage didn't come from what happened in 1994, but from everything that came after, from the way the world refused to let the family grieve privately, from the way society treated their pain like public property, from the way every article, every documentary, every new theory reopened wounds they were desperately trying to close. And she revealed that the tragedy of her life wasn't about evidence or verdicts. It was about losing the innocence of childhood, losing the privacy of family, and losing the freedom to tell her own story without it being filtered through the shadow of the trial. And she finally confirmed in her own words that the world may never truly understand what she went through, because people only saw a public spectacle while she lived through a personal apocalypse. And she expressed that the real truth, the truth they hid for years, wasn't a bombshell revelation, but the heartbreaking reality that she spent her entire life fighting to reclaim her identity from a narrative written without her consent, a truth that leaves anyone who hears it stunned not because it is scandalous, but because it is deeply, profoundly, painfully human, a reminder that behind every headline is a family struggling to survive the weight of a story that the world refuses to let die. Thanks for watching.